What happened to your brother?
Jill and I were pursuing a man named Albert Wesker. A few years ago, the BSAA received intel as to the whereabouts of Umbrella's founder, Oswell E. Spencer. Jill and I were ordered by the BSAA's European headquarters to apprehend him. We accepted that mission in the hopes of uncovering some info that would lead us to Wesker. Chris to HQ, come in. We're at the target's location.
Copy that, Chris. Move in and procure the target.
Roger that.
What can you tell us about the area?
The satellite scan isn't showing anything out of the ordinary, but regardless, you should expect the unexpected.
Understood. We're in.
Let's move.
Alright, so this is Resident Evil 5 Lost in Nightmares, the first of 2 DLCs released for the game, and my favorite of the 2. It bridges the gap in between Resident Evil Revelations and Resident Evil 5. Now, if you go to this door, I'm sure everyone knows about this. If you come to this door and examine it 3 different times, you'll get a question mark, and then you get a classic Resident Evil camera angle, which is really neat. I won't be playing with it, but it's pretty neat that it's here.
Eagle 5 to Nest. Come in.
Go ahead, Eagle 5.
We've encountered some corpses, possibly Spencer's bodyguards. From what I can see, they appear to have been killed by unconventional means.
Roger that. We knew this mission wouldn't be a cakewalk. Use extreme caution.
Since this is Resident Evil 5, my favorite Jill Valentine voice actress is playing Jill right now, and that would be Michelle Jia. She is so far my favorite. I don't really like the woman in Revelations, and all the older Jills were fine. I don't really have anything against them. This first video, I'll be playing as Jill, because she has the most amount of unique things that she does, and then from the second video and the third video, I will be playing as Chris, because it's Chris. So we can't do anything up here yet. Where we want to go is on the other side of that door. What we have to do is come down here, and if you were playing as Chris, you would get a pretty neat conversation if you examine the cranks. So I'll show that off.
What is it with this guy and cranks?
He's a man of refined tastes.
He's obsessed. That's what he is.
So, if you haven't noticed by now, the mansion we are in is a replica of the Spencer mansion from Resident Evil 1. It's very similar. It's not an exact copy, but it's kind of like a condensed version of it. It's like the Cliff Notes version of the Spencer Mansion from the first game, which is really cool. There's a lot of similarities, because there's a lot of areas that you're going to recognize from the first game, which is really neat. And the characters themselves bring up how similar the mansions look themselves. Now this is the first part of this DLC that is pretty much Jill specific.
Okay.
If you were playing as Chris, you would just have to wait for Jill to go in this room, because obviously Jill can't throw Chris to the other side of the ledge because he's too big. Chris is just going to kind of go downstairs. This is what you'd be doing if you were playing as Chris. And this is the first area that's kind of like really familiar from Resident Evil 1. This is the area in the first game where you'd have to push the angel statue down onto the table. And that sniper rifle, Chris would not be able to pick it up. Only Jill would be able to. I don't think the AI actually goes for it. I don't remember.
Kinda takes you back, doesn't it?
Raccoon City? Unfortunately, yeah. That's where all this started.
It's hard to believe that was 8 years ago. I guess I am getting older.
You're not the only one.
So, all throughout this, there's this guy named Patrick. He is, like, I think the butler of Oswald E. Spencer. And he has all these journals laying around. In most of them, there are passwords. The passwords you need for a specific point in this DLC. And here's the, I hope this isn't Chris's blood. That's where that happened in the original game. And then if you were to go to the right in the original game, that's where you'd find, your first zombie. In here, I believe there's an herb, and I think nothing else. Just a urinal. I don't know how women are supposed to use this bathroom. But one of my favorite things about this is how creepy it is. There are some enemies, there aren't many, they're random, which I really like. I like the fact that enemies are random. They can pop out at any time, so it makes every playthrough kind of different. And I forget what exactly makes them random. Difficulty is definitely a thing. There are more enemies when you play on higher difficulties.
Come on!
But
Roger.
every time I play,
Roger.
the enemies are in different places, so that's pretty cool.
Moonlight Sonata. I remember the last time I played this.
Think you can still play it?
You mean right now? I don't know. It's been a while.
This is another Jill-specific thing. Only Jill can do this. Chris can't play the piano. Jill can. And it's another reference to the first game where Moonlight Sonata was, you know, in it. But again, talking about why I really like this, the sound design in this is really, really good. You can hear things kind of like moving around through the mansion that aren't actually there. So it really keeps you on your toes and it makes you really paranoid the entire time. And I love how disappointed Jill looks when you play a wrong note on the piano. It's pretty funny. And I believe there should be the first enemy coming in right about now. Chris, get out of my way. This one, I think, is always here. I've never gone through this without him not being here. But there are certain things that trigger an enemy. This is one of them. Again, a playthrough for someone else might be different. Maybe someone's gone through this without him actually being there. These guys are called blobs, I do believe. They didn't have names, like official names, for quite a while. I believe their name a couple years ago when this came out was the Guardians of Insanity, which is a really cool name. I think that's much better than Blob. Blob is just stupid. And you can keep playing the piano, you don't really need to though. But let's see how disappointed Jill is again. She's really disappointed with herself. But this is the BSAA outfit. This has always been my favorite outfit of Jill's since this DLC. I don't know why. In Resident Evil 5, whenever I play Mercenaries, this is always who I play as. That, and I love Jill as a character, and I think she's the most fun to play as, and she's definitely my best character, even though all the characters are pretty much the same. But yeah. And there's another place that's pretty familiar. Usually bats fly through the window, like in the first game. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Chris, what are you doing? Oh, also, speaking of Chris, they debeefed him. They took away his muscles from Resident Evil 5, because that happens before that game, insinuating that, you know, Chris wasn't as fit in this game as he is in 5.
You haven't lost your touch.
Jill!
Okay. Okay, it's open.
So yeah, that's a Jill-specific moment. Jill can, you know, pick locks. If you're playing as Chris, she just... Chris makes her open the lock. He just goes, "Jill, open the lock!" And she does, so yeah. We can't get in because we don't have all 3 passwords, we only have 1. The other one is in here. I like to check corners before I turn them because, as I said, enemies can be anywhere. take half and let Chris take the other half. Good, Chris. Get out of my way. And he's really running ahead. There's an herb in here. And here is the second password. This one is sort of damaged, so what we have to do is take that back to the fireplace that's in the other room. This door we can't get in yet. We can get in eventually, but not now. I remember once I went through that door and there was an enemy there, and it scared me quite a bit. This is one of the few, times in Resident Evil, modern Resident Evil history anyway, that a game has scared me. But I talked about this in Resident Evil 4, but the classic games never really scared me either, so I don't really mind the directions that the games have been going in. Just take the password here, put it in the fire, and that makes it legible. I don't know how it works, don't ask. Some crazy stuff going on here. Once I had an enemy break through that door after I put the password in. So yeah, like I said, they can be anywhere. And again, I do believe it has to do with difficulty. I'm playing on normal difficulty right now, so, you know. There's something over here. There's a portrait of Oswald E. Spencer there. And yeah, another nice touch is that instead of going through the doors in third person, you go through in first person, just like in classic Resident Evil games. I'm not going to be going for all the score stars, so don't, if I miss one, it's on purpose. I do know where they all are, but I don't really care. And that memoir had a reference to one of the most infamous things in Resident Evil history, and that would be Itchy Tasty. It's pretty great. And in here, there's a good weapon. It's a Magnum. We're gonna equip that there. But as I said, I'm gonna be switching to Chris after this segment is over. So past this video, I'll be playing as Chris, and Jill won't have these weapons. Chris will. Maybe not the sniper rifle, because I don't remember if the AI picks it up or not. You can request the sniper rifle from the AI, so, you can request pretty much anything from the AI. You can leave them weaponless. It's pretty funny. I used to do that to Sheva all the time. Yeah, it feels good to be playing Resident Evil 5 again. I haven't made videos in this game in forever. It's still probably one of my favorite series of videos I've ever done. My personality was a lot different when I did those, and I'm kind of annoying in those videos, but I had a lot of fun making those, and I think it really shows. And here we got this. This was brought up. This was actually supposed to be pretty important to the series, like the future of the series for a while, but nothing ever really came of this. This is talking about the Wesker children, and in a bit it's going to have a list of the Wesker children, which is going to include Albert Wesker. But at the end of the list, there's someone called Alex Wesker, who was apparently going to be, like, replacing Wesker from the series. And nothing ever came of that. The only thing close to that was Jake Mueller, who I honestly did think at one point was going to be Alex Wesker, but he just turned out to be Wesker Jr. I'm not sure how someone who was manufactured, like Wesker, could have a kid, but whatever. That was always one of my favorite Wesker lines. Are you saying I was manufactured? But now we gotta go back to where we got the second password, because Chris is trapped. Oh noes! No matter who you're playing as, your partner's gonna get trapped in there. If you're Chris, Jill's in there. If you're Jill, Chris is in there. And here's the door from before. Chris is going to shoot the lock. He's gonna tell you to stand back, but you really don't need to. It's not like you can shoot through the door. Nothing over there. Hi, Chris. How you doing? They give you plenty of time. This should never really be a problem.
Thanks.
Your partner should really never ever get crushed by that.
I can't right now.
Get over here, Chris. Come on. For whatever reason, your AI partner refuses to leave that room. This part I always like to take slow because I've had enemies ambush me in here. We've only encountered one so far. This is a little odd. I'm assuming they're gonna just like throw 3 at me. I'm gonna be very upset about that one. I've never been able to do this without getting like 0 enemies to come at me. I think that's pretty much impossible. Unless you're playing on like amateur. One almost usually always ambushes me here, so let's get ready for him. Let's get ready to throw a grenade at him. Maybe I have to leave. You gonna come? No, please tell me that there's not gonna be an enemy. Am I really gonna get through this with only fighting 1 enemy? Huh. This has never happened to me before. Hey, good news for me, I guess. Don't have to fight as many enemies. But anyway, we're coming up on our time with Jill. As soon as we transition into the next area, I'm gonna quit out and replay as Chris. So, the next video, I shall be playing as Chris. Just insert the crank, because, you know, you gotta hide your cranks. That's what I do. I hide my cranks all over the place. Again, it's just the arbitrary Resident Evil puzzles, like, oh, you gotta get 3 passwords, and then open up a bookcase, and get your crank, you know. Doesn't make any sense, but it's very classic Resident Evil, and I love it. So yeah, once we get through this door, that should be the end of the video, and I'll be playing as Chris. So see you in the next one.